welcome back to the caster desk. We are here as we come back in for game number 4. And we're going to move immediately on with that, not going to reference it whatsoever.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
We were
champs
to
like
do this.
True.
Technically, yes.
No, we don't have to put in the technically. We just were.
Yeah, you know what?
Yes,
It's like when you go to the bathroom in your work. It's just like you're being paid to do this. That's it, man. That's it. That's how you gotta. That's how you finesse people. But anyway, coming back into this one here, Movistar finally got themselves on the board. It's 2-1 now. However, I imagine Unicorns are going to be taking away that blue side. So that first pick Wukong not going to be the big one right now.
Yeah, I do wonder what direction Movistar are going to take, because their game 1 and game 3 drafts were similar in style in terms of, you know, the sort of mid-game execution, the carries, mid-jungle. So I wonder if they want to try to move towards that. And whether or not Unicorns being on blue side have a little more space to, you know, look at some more targeted bans against the composition like that.
I think there's a thing that just makes it so easy for them, and it's called Galio. Being able to just not have tempo matter, even if there's mid lane priority on the enemy mid lane, and the fact that you can just ultimate, the fact that there's so much engage and peel in your turn 2.
Do you then think that maybe for Unicorns it's worth banning it away in the first 3? Like, if they don't feel like there's many other picks in the first 3 that they need to be worried about?
I feel like since you're on blue side, it is a ban you can allow yourself if you're not going to first pick it, and like going into the second ban phase or anything like that, if the Jace is taken away, you don't have so many flexes that we would usually love into it. It feels weird saying it, but it's definitely seemed like a good comfort pick for Fresskowy here in this series.
Yeah, and I just feel like for Movistar as a whole, they feel a lot more confident in their ability to, you know, make plays happen. Even in that game 1, even though I did mention that generally their decision making in game 3 was a lot sharper, I feel like even in game 1 you saw moments of it being sort of elevated because they always knew they would have the air support come in. So we'll see what Unicorns feel out here, because they've already removed away the Zeri. That's one piece of, you know, that pretty scary puzzle. They've now moved away the Wukong, which is, you know, the second piece of the puzzle. I know the one piece is Wukong, but
that was me.
It was definitely me.
Oh, it was a Sheen. Well, to be fair, a Sheen is the bigger beat.
Well,
that's debatable. We'll have a weeb off at some point.
It's interesting because we've also just come to a conclusion where it's not really about taking any OPs away. It's just about taking comfort away from the opposition. And it doesn't really matter if you're blue or red right now. All of this is comfort just taken away.
Yep, more or less. So will we just see 3 for 3?
Yeah.
Will we just see the Galio, or do they want to actually remove away a power pick here? You know, Rakan, Vi, Annie, all up. There's only 2 bans left available, so some of them are going to have to be available once we get to the first pick. There's a Sejuani. That's kind of the 4th piece to that list. That was there. So what do Movistar want to do now? Because I feel like there are so many OPs up that you probably just look towards another targeted ban, and you just kind of trade as heavily as you can being on red side.
It's a much slower pick ban right now. Like, this is kind of like they're taking their times figuring out. I was gonna say, like, it's like this has definitely become less about kind of like, okay, we know what we're banning, bop, 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 that's fine. They're not looking for trades. They're looking for just straight up get rid of the comforts.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, I don't necessarily like to overread into like how long it takes teams to pick to ban, but this is one of those cases where, like,
I mean, this is definitely the slowest.
Actually, yeah, they are. This is by far the slowest ban phase that we've had, and it makes you wonder how the conversations are going. With Xayah and Rakan both up, it seems like Unicorns favor this Rakan over the Xayah of the Lovers duo.
Could also just take a rotation where you just say, hey, we're going to go Xayah, we're going to go Vi here. We know Vi's not going to have value for you guys, so it's not actually a reason to pick it just now. You can also just go for support immediately into the Rakan if you don't want to show too many cards as well.
Nautilus, or maybe even the Rell again.
Yeah, I feel like those are good options.
Okay.
But no, it's actually just going to be Isma back on Zhao here, something he's played a lot in the tournament, actually.
But I don't mind this, because I feel like Movistar skirmishing is where they flourish, right? I think picking up something like the Zhao to try and just, you know, set that record straight and ensure that they should have a pretty strong ability to fight is going to be really, really nice for them. And Peach is going to try and match it 1-to-1 with the Lee Sin. Very, very powerful still on the patch. We haven't seen it really prioritized here today, but it seems to be that that's the angle Unicorns want, and a lot of mobility and a lot of, you know, strong power to lock down, especially at level 6, to really blow up one single target.
See what they want to go for right now. It's going to be I was going to say pretty confident that the AD carry needs to be locked in here. You need something that can go toe-to-toe with the Xayah, but Varus does have its own little weaknesses. If you're able to get those feathers down, if he doesn't land, say, a Q or get those blighted quivers off, it can mean a very volatile bot side here for the side of Unicorns.
Yeah, question is that Galio now just going to come through on 3 here? You can lock it in, and then you can start bending away some supports instead. Actually, they prioritize just getting that Rell again. Maybe. No, there's not even no bans coming out against supporters, or you picked this. I think the Galio is definitely going to be taken off the board here in the second ban phase if you're Unicorns above.
Yeah, you have to just remove it just for the sake of comfort.
Yeah, it
how
feels like it,
different Movistar have looked with the pick. I don't mind the Rell though. I think the Rell generally is also very, very powerful at shutting down mobile targets. I think obviously, you know, people focus on the engage, but the amount of times I've seen teams that are very slippery, you know, LeBlanc with Lee Sin plus a Rakan or whatever it may be, Ezreal, Rell just shuts that down. So I like the fact that Alvaro's actually gone back to this pick, already seeing the lane matchup, and you know that the 2v2 skirmishing power of Xayah and Rell is going to very much overshadow the end.
The thing is, there's actually quite a few bans, maybe potentially for the top side you want to remove here. Seeing a Gwen ban come through, you might just be looking at, oh, I'm going to Malphite here, I'm going to Ornn here, I'm going to Sion, these beefy tanks as well. There's the Galio, but I still think you have quite a few squishies. You can already see the team fight composition aligning on the side of Movistar Riders. And with these bans coming through, maybe Rumble's next one they're going to take care of. Then they're locking in one of these tanks. Then you might look at an even scarier teamfight composition.
Yeah, I do wonder where Movistar want to go, because if they go and commit for 2 top side bans, I was going to say, are you just going to blind pick your top here and then go for mid R5? I feel like mid R5 makes more sense to me in this kind of series, where first move to a lot of these skirmishes is kind of the deciding factor.
But that hasn't really been the trajectory of our game so far. That's the thing, right? For this series, seems like top lane has been very important, specifically for Marky and Movistar Riders. Every single time on red side, that last pick has gone all the way down to top lane. Just speaks a bit of priorities too here. Still, lots of different mid laners available. Still have the Ahri.
Yeah, it's gonna be Ahri.
Yeah, isn't it?
Don't even try. Oh,
no, hold up.
Okay, so
wait a minute.
I actually
really
I like this.
so wrong.
Do you know what?
Really
No, but do you know
Rakan,
this
so
is
good.
exactly. And now it kind of shuts down the ability for Mars to confidently go Ahri, because you've got so much lockdown in CC. And again, I think this just plays into the trying to shut down the mobility options here. So I like this. Now, Mars can go towards the Sylas. There's a couple of very strong almost steal away. Obviously, the Lissandra run is the big one. The lane counter is very, very good. But we were talking about potentially seeing a Malphite come in at R5. Now you can't really go the Malphite because the Sylas is there too. So it's a multifaceted pick. We'll see. I imagine this is just going to Mars because the lane is very good one-to-one. And now Venour has the opportunity to potentially pick a side.
And this is such a rough composition to play Lee Sin into, to play Rakan into, because Xayah self-peel, Zhao self-peel, Lissandra self-peel, like all these things that makes it difficult for you to make that deep dive in. And you're also at the same time super low range. Have to play around your Varus as the only range. The rest of you, full melee.
Yeah, full melee. It's going to be really, really rough, I think, for Unicorns. With the amount of tools that Movistar have to kind of more diving comps, this isn't necessarily the best outlook, and they're even going to go into a pick that also loves to thrive in these kind of skirmishing scenarios. Camille, once she hits the Divine Thunder, and of course just gets stronger and stronger after that, will, in my mind, outscale just about every pick that is available here to the Unicorns. So this is all of a sudden gone from a composition with a lot of nuance and mobility and, you know, strong tools to maybe find picks and snowball that into objectives that genuinely might have to just outright snowball because of the way that these two compositions potentially want to interact with one another.
Gonna be interesting. I think Unicorns of Love, they're gonna have to play around early spikes, specifically for Lee Sin and Sylas. Skirmish around that 2v2 in the mid lane and jungle. Not so much in the mid lane itself, but move that pressure around to see if they can find any picks with it. Because super difficult to get on the Lissandra. Good disengage against both of them. When you had level 6 on Movistar Riders, even better to actually just disengage a lot of these fights.
And again, we find ourselves back at the point for Movistar Riders. They have to keep winning. They cannot let this one kind of, you know, fall down. They've taken one step. They have 2 more to take to really kind of bring themselves back into us. Of course, they're still going to be probably kicking themselves about that first game, but you cannot let that kind of linger in your mind. It's ancient history, throw it away. But for Unicorns, you got the blue side. You got yourself the early Rakan that hasn't been allowed through this entire series, something that has to show presence now coming into this game. Really need to make sure that you're making the most out of those early picks.
Absolutely. You have to. And I feel like Unicorns, at least by draft, my initial take is it might be a bit of an uphill battle. We'll see if we can maybe see some kind of cheeky level 1 to tilt things in their favor.
Hold on for Lekcyc here. He might move around. The pink's already coming into the bush, but he might just W over the wall immediately. Wouldn't do it over on the top side here. He's getting a ward down. So now they have the information. If they're quick enough, they could have checked the source of that trinket and could have seen that it would actually have been Lekcyc that put it down. Question is, will there be a counter response for them to get any greedy, or not greedy, but offensive wards in the early game from Movistars? But it doesn't really look like it. They're just watching by, stable, seeing if anyone's actually coming into these choke points.
Yeah, more or less kind of like a poke and prod, right? Probing for information where you can, but kind of ends up by the end of it being a bit of a regular line of scrimmage. All things come to an end. But Movistar I want to see where Isma goes first, because I feel like he's got options kind of across the board. You know, top side, there's no flash on Venour. It is Ghost, of course, but you've got Marky. Eventually, level 6 will come in. Lekcyc Mayhem is great lockdown. Level 6 for Fresskowy, same thing. CC in the bottom side. So Isma, as a jungler, this is one of those golden games where it's like, anywhere I go, it should just feel really good. Yeah. But it's about making sure that the opportunities you pick yield the biggest pushbacks in gold for you.
Again, we'll see if he does anything with that information, knowing that the ward is in the tri-brush there. You did mention, of course, the Ignite and lack of flash on the Cassante, so we'll see if that does lead to anything crazy in that top side. But for the moment, both junglers going to be starting on their reds, moving up towards their Grumps, or excuse me, their Krugs. And then, again, wait to see what ends up happening here. I don't expect there to be much fireworks, at least until we start seeing that first clear.
Yeah, so going into the support intel once again with the matchup, Alvaro has started up with the crash down. You use that, you get a shield, then when you mount up again, your auto attack will just stun.
Get the stun.
Exactly, so that's what you're looking at most of the time. The E as well, the stun, can interrupt a lot of the Rakan dashes, even the engage if you get it initially. So that's really something to look onto if you're looking for the micro in this matchup.
Engage in mid. Be an aggressive glacial path there to try and get some trade back here, but Mask not coming out the best of it, but knows that he has got Peach waiting off into the wings.
Yeah, and he just used that E. It's a long cooldown with 1 point in it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get the abscond abduct, trying to look for this one. A flash for Flash! And Peach is able to pick up that one. Does he take the Q underneath the tower? God. He does! But Mask will be traded back. It is a 2-for-1 trade, though, in favor of the Unicorns.
And that's exactly what we said Unicorns of Love they needed. It was the 2v2 between your mid laner and your jungler to find a skirmish. We said you wanted to move it around, but they don't care about that. They have the first move in the mid lane, and they get the kills.
Yeah, and all of this just comes down because Fresskowy used the E aggressively, right? He has no way out. He has to wait to flash. Doesn't matter because Peach E flashes in. Really easy commit, but then Mask as well, just flash forward with the Kingslayer. They have enough burst damage. Sure, Mask dies, but honestly, I don't think it really matters in the exchange just because they trade 2-for-1. Yeah,
and they both have teleports, so you know that both mid laners with the relative short death timers will just be back quite quickly.
Exactly, and Peach, very happy, you know, like Iron Spike Whip, first reset with 3 camps. That's a good base, if you ask me.
That's pretty damn good. That is a pretty damn good place to be in. But now Isma looking maybe for a gank on this bot side. It's going to be difficult. They do not get the stun down. Alvaro tanking up too much. Now Supa needs to back himself away immediately. Isma never takes on the turret aggro, and now Funky, oh, he needed one more auto attack and would have been able to get it. Now he might have been too far forward. He does get the heal off. Excuse me, not even the heal. Gets himself the splash off to try and get himself away. And that's going to be a trade back of 1-for-1 this bot side, and we are seeing this game just kind of devolve into skirmishes all around the map.
1-for-1, but still in favor of Movistar Riders. They get to have the AD carry still alive. Supa still collects the minion wave over the side of Funky. He's dead. He's going to be missing gold from minions and experience, so in that regard, Movistar comes out on top. Could have been outplayed potentially, but not this time around. Looking for one more mid play. Not going to find it.
Not quite yet, and Alvaro there to make sure Lissandra should be able to pick it, but let's have a look at the replay here on this bot side. And Jumana, again, like, it just kind of takes too long to get these minions to crash.
I think crucially, the crash down is actually just a little bit short, right? Alvaro being forced to flash out. Isma's no flash underneath tower. Supa takes half of his health with 1 tower shot because of the ramp damage. And turnaround damage is so close. 11 HP is what Isma lives on here.
Unlucky.
Yeah. Very much unlucky. Hell of arrows. Very easy to lock down that final kill because Alvaro still dismounted. But again, because Funky overextends for that last kill back trade, dying misses the wave, and now Supa has a bit of a 1-to-1 lead for now.
It's getting a bit dicey right now. You can see that Movistar getting a little bit impatient with how they've been able to kind of, you know, make these things work, and they don't want to just let this game just fall to the wayside. They need to kind of be proactive. We talked about that after game number 3, that the best they've looked is when they've been the ones being proactive.
Okay, so Peach is getting so much on the map right now. He's just taking away the Raptors. There's a free gang on him on the top side. Marky's still around. Wave not crashed. No flash. This should just be a kill as well. So I think Peach is really happy about the early game, unless
Marky gets himself out. That's the power of the hook shot, well shot. Shouldn't be any real chase down after that, and that's just, look, you know, the Camille, she's a slippery customer.
Yeah, good read.
Mask. Gonna be fine, nearly getting caught out by the Ring of Frost.
Yeah, not enough range for that W to come in from Fresskowy. No level 6 as well. Sometimes you'll see level 6s get hit kind of on this timer, actually, by mid laners if there's not a lot of interaction, but
it is usually around the 5:30 mark.
Yeah, yeah, because there's been so many people coming around the mid lane sharing XP. Level 6 wasn't available just then. Isma had level 6 available from Fresskowy, so getting up in the face of Peach, maybe to try and take away some camps, but no collapse can come through. But still, mid lane gained via priority, so I wonder if they're going to try and move this around, try and catch off somebody here.
Looking for a nice route. Both of the support and jungler will kind of back themselves away, and this is good for Movistar. I like that they're being super aggressive. They recognize, as you mentioned, they've got the mid push. They could look to try and get something with the fact that they have got that ultimate available.
Oh.
Do they get the Ring of Frost? You cannot recall there, and that's going to be Funky punished for thinking that he was safe.
Split decision as well from Unicorns of Bluff. At first, it looked like Mask wanted to join him down towards the bottom side and actually look for a skirmish. Then he calls it off, but the bot lane still in a greedy position to take that recall. They just get punished for it.
Yeah, I just totally agree with you, but Morgan, Movistar, no hesitancy in moving into that skirmish at all. Makes that life very, very easy. Now, Marky has to be a little bit careful. This is one of these weird things where...
You're a Cassante enjoyer.
Yeah, exactly.
You are.
So, Cassante can have lethal at very surprising ranges sometimes. Like this, actually.
I mean,
Just
like right
by the way,
now,
he might be dead.
I mean, he might be.
He's
There's
dead.
the knockback, and there is the kill. There it is. Gets himself the final auto attack. I had to hold it because there was the AD shield, but I like that you immediately called there was lethal, and there was lethal.
There was lethal. That's great.
I don't know, I played this champ way too much to know when it happens. And now, with no teleport, you know, Venour could go take a plate very happily. There's not really any fair being collapsed on. Demolish as well. Oh, this is going to feel great. He could even get two. If he really wants to greed free, he's got a cannon wave.
Oh, he can.
Why
for
not?
Sure can, yeah. Just take it. Why
Is
not,
it
right?
greed if he earned it?
No.
There you go.
It will, however, be greed if, no, actually, Fresskowy
Greed
and
is good.
Isma decided to walk down to the bottom side because they know that this is just an outright loss on the top side. So, yeah, great swing of gold for Venour. In that one play, he's now up 1,000 gold pretty much off a solo kill on 2 plays.
It's going to be interesting as well because when the game goes well for Movistar Riders, it's often when they dictate the pace of the early game and get to pick up objectives. But for now, and specifically with Marky going down, it's harder for you to get objectives on the top side, down towards the bottom side with Peach is hovering. He's just the stronger of the 2 junglers right now, so also easier for them to play the game. So as Movistar, you're really waiting for that time where most of you guys get your level 6s and you start becoming more comfortable in a team fight setting.
Yeah, just Alvaro.
He found himself on Funky on the backside there, gets himself the wind become lightning after the flash, and there's going to be the feathers going flying. Funky doesn't die though. Great kick, knocks up 3 members, and Movistar, it looks so good, but now you've got to be
Lissandra
exit
ultimate.
strategy. You have to leave without anybody dying. There's going to be a flash in, immediately using that stolen Lissandra ultimate. Can Supa do anything? No flash, no ghost, and no way home. I say that. Gets 1 kill, looking for the red buff rocks, not quite able to get it. Ends up being traded back. The Lee Sin has fallen down, and this red buff transfer has finally gone over to Lissandra. Movistar get themselves a small advantage.
They get themselves a couple of kills back on the end of that one. One thing I really want to call out, and I hope you get a replay of it, thank you, observers, is the kick gets cancelled out by the Featherstorm here of Supa. And because that happens, the kick actually looks pretty good for Unicorns after that. But unfortunately, there's not quite enough damage on the follow-up because Funky can't really put himself in a position anymore because he's been forced out to put the damage back onto the CC. Lekcyc also, I believe, didn't also have the W, so there was no chain CC. They're waiting for Master to come in, and this is where things start to turn around.
Yeah, it's good stun on towards Mask initially. It doesn't have them completely blow up that jungle immediately, and also forcing out the flash, I believe, on Lekcyc, so at least the first move in where he gets a knock up with the quickness in our grand entrance. And unfortunately, Fresskowy is around for the counterpart of that exchange. But yeah, also lucky with the Guardian just came out when the Featherstorm was up, so also lived because of that. So lots of nuances in the early game, and we were just talking about the objectives and how it didn't look too good on the top side. But you win that bot lane skirmish, you get a better reset, you get the Rift Hell on top with the lane rotations.
And this is feeling like we're kind of getting the best of both these teams. We're seeing the game 2 of Unicorns versus the game 3 of Movistar Riders, where they're both kind of going head-to-head, looking to try and make those big plays themselves. You will be able to get yourselves kind of pushing in now onto this bot side to gain vision control around this dragon. But for the moment, it is Unicorns kind of like dealing with the fact that Movistar on a bit of a push forward.
Yeah, they definitely are. Now, one thing I would really like to see from Unicorns is maybe to actually finally bring Venour into the fold, whether it's actually going up towards him and using him or trying to cool him down to a team fight super early on. I think even though Movistar have the Herald and maybe you worry about Supa getting a bunch of gold, I think if you can push Cassante into an angle where he's super oppressive and ahead at this point in the game where he's already got the IBG, he's going to be super difficult for Marky to actually 1v1 for a very long time, and he's also going to be a complete nuisance in terms of being a bruiser in this kind of skirmishing composition for Movistar.
And we're already getting it right now. You can see it on the minimap, actually just rotating down right now. Doesn't have the teleport, neither does Marky, but if you get top lane priority and you get the first move...
Oh, here we go. They're going to look for a full fight. They're going to try and get on top of this dragon pit, and they are doing exactly that. Funky forced to flash away. The ignite ticking. Is it enough? Yes, it is. Alvaro picks that one up for him. You have got the Cassante in position, but he's a little too late.
I mean, is he a little too late, or is it his team just becoming there first as well? Yeah, that's the thing. Unicorn's too soon on the play. Jungler's still dead from them. Isma, on the other hand, does not have smite. And I think that's been communicated.
Yeah.
So Unicorns of Love will still pick up the first objective. Then the teleport will come through from Venour up towards the top side to pick up the minion wave that's been pushed in. But yeah, Unicorns of Love, too quick on the play there.
Yeah, okay. Nice comms at the very back end to at least recognize that Isma can't actually smite steal this, so if they can kind of just, you know, bruise him off with the health bars, and that's fine. They don't lose too much on the rest of the map for the roam from Venour. So all in all, I think it's a bit sloppy from Unicorns, but still securing the first dragon and ensuring that that's not something they have to worry about. A snowball from Movistar is definitely a good place to be.
It's a late dragon, though. We saw how this worked the last time. You need to be getting that objective fairly early if you want to try and kind of hard force the issue. But positive, still a positive, is a Hex Dragon as well. In terms of individual dragons goes, it's pretty decent in terms of the stats it's able to give you, especially going into the late game. But does mean that we are kind of coming back into a much more even state. It's only really that dragon that's kind of the difference between these two teams. As Marky might be in a world of hurt himself, gets dragged away from it, but misses the Q. Really nicely done there with the Hextech Ultimatum, but they might look to try and fight him once more. They did go all out to try and make this all-in work. Will they be able to get out Venour? That's the question. As we look down the bot side, it looks like Funky just cannot get a break. But the Rakan comes in with the hero's entrance, and that's going to be huge there for them. Isma finally clears that one up, but you trade it back. Now, can they get the Lissandra in? Yes, they can. There's going to be a good quickness here. Lekcyc just really doing so much here. Yes, his AD carry still dies, but he gains so much time off the back of it.
Top turret, bottom turret. I think bottom turret will go down first here, so still big exchange going over in the favor of Movistar Rider. Top lane will fought just after as well. And yeah, nicely played by Lekcyc as well. Unfortunately, he didn't have the quickness to actually follow up with extra turret shots, if they could have been CC'd down under. But still, Movistar Riders, even though it didn't go as they anticipated, happy about the play.
Yeah, Movistar definitely are. And I think they can just continue to force through the bottom side, right? This is the angle that they really want to just try and use. But for Unicorns, I need to see more of this. A little less, I don't want to say sloppy, but, you know, cutting it close, potentially, towards the end of the dive.
Yeah, extra turret shot as well. Peach just out of range. They're waiting here to make sure the turret aggro gets destabilized. Yeah, exactly, from being stacked. And then down towards the bottom side, trying to get a ward so he could play safe.
Oh, man.
But potentially could have had it earlier. Yeah, huge.
If that W hit onto Alvaro, he would have died so much earlier. Maybe the Ignite can come down a little more focus on Isma.
Oh, go back down into live, as we can see there. Mask getting put into stasis for the moment, but they've already caught out Funky again. That's going to be his 5th death of the game. The feathers fly. Mask has nowhere to go, but he flashes, but it's all in vain. And this is Movistar building up some momentum. They're looking for more. They don't want just to be a couple of kills. They want it to be all the kills. And they're doing it between 2 turrets.
Unicorns are just getting lost in the sauce, and Movistar are so happy to just allow them to walk in. It's so absurd. Unicorns need to slow this game down for Movistar. Keep the pace as high as you can.
And that's exactly, this is the best we've seen Movistar. It's when they play the high-octane gameplay. It's when they're looking to actually utilize their leads. That's what we're seeing right now. Getting aggressive into the enemy jungle, pressing that deep vision. You can already see it with the pink ward, steep ward. You think you're safe because you have the mid lane turret right next to you, but with the amount of CC that they apply to you when you get caught, there's no way out. And yeah, poor Funky, you know, really just tried to help out his bro there in the mid lane and get caught for it.
Paying for the sins of other laners. AD carries life in a nutshell. Sometimes.
See there, right? Come through, drops a pink ward, just gonna get aggressive afterwards. And Funky, unfortunate.
And they know he has no flash.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. This is the thing with the Varus. The Varus can be exceptionally powerful. The big thing against it versus like, say, Xayah, without her flash, is still very vulnerable, but that ultimate makes such a big difference. And you can see there, every time they're able to jump on a Funky, he just has nowhere to go.
And I'm just going to say it, too. I feel like maybe Unicorns need to just opt out of these skirmishes for now. It just feels like they are not winning because they're either not first to the play or, frankly, as things are starting to unfold in front of us, Movistar are just outplaying them with the hands.
Most definitely are. Now looking to accelerate their pressure once again, seeing if they can get some damage on towards the mid lane turret. They don't need to take it now, but it's in a prime position to break open as soon as you get the second Rift Herald. And that second Rift Herald should go over to Movistar Riders again. You can already see it. Aggressive vision once again, right? Ward, pink ward, pink ward, pink ward, right? It's becoming really difficult for Unicorns of Love to actually contest that side. The question is then, would they opt in for cross-map where Drake is spawning in 20 seconds after it's just been spawned?
I mean, it seems like, if they take it on this time, they can maybe still run it down to the Dragon and actually contest this. So if they burst it, Supa's here as well, just to ensure that the confirm is very, very quick. 10 seconds, the Herald will be dead within that. Definitely try and make a bit of a beeline down there if they want to. Marky can also rotate first, no teleport needed.
Can even use the Rift Herald right now.
Right now,
Unicorns would love to be like, do you want to defend the mid lane turret? There's a tier 2, we can threat too.
Yeah, best call.
I mean, they're going to go for the 2 turrets. I mean, you force the TP out as well. This is a huge kind of swing now from Movistar, kind of saying, look, we call your bluff. We know you're not going to be here on time unless you use resources. So now, Movistar get the crash in. They won't get the tier 2 just yet. Peach on a very good flank. They haven't seen him just yet. Now they have. They now know he is there, but there's going to be the kick delayed. The Hextech ultimatum is good. The feathers fly, and Peach can go nowhere, but they do get the shutdown onto Lissandra. So it's a 1-for-1 trade, but the jungler is very powerful. Mass did steal away the Crescent Guard. They're trying to make something work. They're trying to get the Cassante here onto Supa, and that's the way you kind of want to try and single out this AD carry. It's another trade back, and it's just so close between these two teams. But importantly here for Unicorns, they got rid of the damage dealers.
They did get rid of the damage dealers, and they can just try and take control of the river for now. See if anyone else from Movistar tries to check in. They can't really confirm the Dragon right now. Marky.
Oh, Marky and Mask.
But this is so unnecessary as well, because you're suddenly looking for picks in the mid lane. You're now exposing yourself. TP's up now as well,
Oh, Mask had to flash away, but he cannot get away from this one here. Marky will pick him up, and the Lissandra flank is everything. Movistar taking complete control of this game, and they are trying to make a push to a silver scrapes.
And that's the indecision that just punishes you as well from Unicorns of Love. As soon as that play goes decently in your favor, just take the Drake. You cannot look for more. Unfortunately, they stick around longer than they're allowed to, and a great TP ward facilitates the rest of the team by going over to Movistar. But first, Peach getting caught.
Yeah, Peach getting caught. I mean, looking for the pick, I think, is probably the better way to frame it, right? The Featherstorm again cancels out the
How very glass full of you.
Very glass full of you. But, you know, the initial movement forward here, really, really strong. And I like that Venour actually kind of swaps targets, just walks through, just decides to ult.
Knows that no ultimate on this Xayah as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the damage dealer, that is the carry. So the fact that they managed to remove him, a pretty big deal. But this is just, there's no need. It's a head-scratching moment, realistically, for Unicorns. And now, more fighting.
Yeah, more fighting. A kickback there from Peach means that he does not have that ultimate. The Dragon stacks have been very much turned into an uber late game condition. Neither team is going to be getting to that at least for another 14.5 minutes. And that means that you're going to be at, 30 minutes at that point, 32. That's when you're getting nearly full items most of the time for your AD carries.
Yeah, and I mean, Infernal Dragons as well, that's going to be important for everyone. I want to go back to the point. I feel like for the side of Movistar, keep this pace up. But if you're Unicorns, you're trying to close out this series after what was a very strong-looking 2 games for the most part, you have to just slow things down. And again, I want to go back to how strong Venour is on this top side. Use him. He's a 2-item Cassante.
But, yeah, and the thing is, you can only really use him in a side lane because that team fight was very conditional due to the fact that the Xayah did not have the ultimate, due to the fact that he found them with the knock-up afterwards as well. Exactly, all of that. You're not going to find the same thing going into the next team fights.
No.
And you're not going to find them when the Xayah is around with their own ultimate, when Lissandra is around with her ultimate, when Lee Sin is around with their ultimate. But they are looking to see if they can catch anyone on the side lane. But the problem is, no one's really biting onto the bait that they're trying to pull. And now Movistar, they're just going to go straight down the mid lane, looking for the tier 2 turret.
Yeah, whilst the fishing's going on, very, very clean tower take just comes in from Movistar. They know they're not really under much flex. They have a pretty good idea of where almost everybody is.
Yep. And Mask, actually, highest level in the game.
A lot of ages.
At level 13. The same for Venour as well. So
I think it's slightly more impressive for Venour, but we're going to immediately go into a fight here. The Hextech ultimate comes out. They're going to try and burn down this AD carry if they can. They do get the Rakan, but did they lose anyone on the backside? That's stolen. Rell ultimate doing a hell of a lot. They've got Venour on the backside here. Double kill comes in, but the feathers stop anybody from pushing in all the way. The all-out, can he kill off Supa? Yes, he can, but he'll give his life for it. It's a 4-for-2 trade, and Movistar can crack open the base.
Yeah, 3 members still standing, can look down the mid lane here, could go back to the Baron, but they're not feeling their chances. Death time is still very low. 7-15 now on Funky. Let's see if they can just get the mid lane and get out, but with no minions around, it's becoming a bit dicey actually. Mask.
Marky.
I would have liked Mask getting a bit more aggressive there, seeing if they can get one at least before the Baron. But for now, it is Unicorns of Love getting caught as well.
Yeah, I think given how the last couple of fights have gone, better not to bite off more than you can chew, potentially. And yeah, just a really nice, you know, collapse coming in
But
all
hey,
around.
Venour actually found the Xayah without ultimate and without flash again, so
Yeah.
it manages to get that one kill at least.
I will continue to say, Venour is going to be a pretty big menace for maybe the next 2 fights, I think.
Okay.
About 7 or 8 minutes, right? Around the 28, 29, 30-ish minute mark. That's when K'Sante's overall pressure can maybe start to kind of dwindle off before it starts to get a little bit stronger again. So Unicorns, that window to maybe use the top laner is starting to fall off. Just more in the sense of, you know, how strong now the Xayah is, making their way towards the Lord Dominic's going to be able to power through that, and diving generally is just going to become more and more dangerous. Movistar adapt to the fight.
They're looking for it. There's going to be a good Metal Storm, though, to try and stop them from really getting any kills. The double TP comes in. That's going to be Marky and the Lissandra on the backside. Supa nowhere ready to go, and they're all just piling on top of him. This Varus gets the free fire with nobody finally going on top of him. They will kill him off. It's a double kill coming in here now for Isma on this in Zhao. They are cleaning up everything, because when you throw absolutely everything onto the Xayah, you've nothing left for the fight.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that could have been really, really bad for Unicorns, because Supa very happily, or very sadly rather, actually had his ult up in 1 second's time. If he had that Featherstorm comes through, everyone on Unicorns dies, and Movistar would have taken this to a Baron. So,
Oh yeah. But Unicorns, you can see it from the way they're playing. They don't care about that scaling aspect. They are only looking for picks. They are only looking for fights. The problem is that when you have the two team composition into each other, one thing is there's already a gold lead over at Movistar. The other one, these compositions are really good from Movistar at absorbing the pressure that you bring up. A lot of the self-heal, a lot of the picks, and even though Venour is fed on the K'Sante, it's just not really enough,
It doesn't matter anymore. You know, I was talking about that potential fall-off coming in, you know, maybe in a fight or two. I guess a little off on the court, it might just be from now. And like you said, you know, the way that the comps function, generally, Movistar deal with dive really well, and Unicorn's only way to actually start fights off is diving with effectively 4, you know, melee champs. Varus is on hit as well, obviously a lot of range. Oh, yeah.
In the back.
They're looking for it, but they... Gonna get popped up there. Do you want to make a quick note? Peach, he's not really got many places to be. He's going to be able to try and get a Warthog, but nothing more.
That's
no
greedy.
flash, and that could be Baron.
He could have completely just Warthogged up there. I don't know if it was in cooldown to W, because definitely could have gone out. And now with no jungler, can't really do much on the side of Unicorns of Love. They're actually going to cross-map it. Drake timers favor them again. Last time they could take it while the Rift Tower was alive. This time around, it's the Baron that goes down. They'll try and get a trade on the bottom side.
They're still looking to go for it. It's going to be the quickness coming out here for the Unicorns of Love. Support as the Dragon does finally get secured. That's going to be an objective bounty, but can they get out scot-free? That is the real question. You've got everyone kind of chasing them down. These will be very staggered death timers as Funky throws down his ultimate to see if he can maybe get away, but he knows with no flash, he's got a snowball's chance in hell. And it's just about who will be able to pick that one up. Marky gets that one there as Isma wants a little bit of a 1v1 with Mask, and they're going to lose it. Mask able to steal away his Crescent Guard and give him that, as the Xayah got 1v1'd as well. What was Supa doing in the red buff area?
Still had ultimate again. Love to get a replay of that, actually. That was interesting.
I'm sure we will, no doubt. No, but well, Venor's in all out, and he also used the Ghost, so I think we may have
Peach's kick is uncool.
Probably just ran him down.
I'm starting to align the dots.
The pieces are starting to come together, but
it's like Sherlock Holmes, this is the evidence.
yeah, so whilst this chase down is going on, Supa is actually very, very far away and separated. Venour, how does he end up? Well, I guess he just kind of ignores what's happening on the bottom side, because he kind of just, he thinks, okay, Mask could have just maybe walked out and looked.
Probably, but there's also a great shutdown he picks up, so this is actually worth it from Mask's point of view, getting this kill. 1,000. And then, okay, it's just, Supa's just getting a bit...
Supa tried to kill off the Rakan and then went way too deep into enemy territory.
Hey,
so,
that's confidence, okay? That's a confident AD carry right now. And that might just be the mentality of Movistar
it's like
right
the difference between bravery and stupidity is the result.
Very true.
Something like that.
Wise
but
words.
we come back in. AD carry is now coming up to 3 items. Actually, a lot of people hitting up the 3 items. You have the Death Stance here for Isma. You've got the Void Staff for the Lissandra, as well as the Lambori Quick Blades here for Supa. And this is going to be a bit of a push in now. You've got the Baron buff for a couple more seconds, just under a minute. See if you can break open the base once more. They haven't been able to take the inhibitor just yet.
Yeah. Top Movistar, they can just play it this game because they know if Unicorns engage on them, they just have the better options at dealing with it. So if they get up in their face and kind of bait Unicorns in, they know they'll always be able to burst down the first target, CC them, and Unicorns have to really try and space out who goes in and when they go in.
And I'm really getting flashbacks to the first game now.
Yep.
Now also down towards
Here we
that
go.
bottom side. Here's the dive.
Isma going in on top of Funky, but he gets himself away. The Hextech ultimatum to try and disengage a little bit, but they couldn't get on the Supa, who takes out the Cassante. And this time around, there will be no base defense. There will be nobody to stop them. Movistar taking us to 5 games.
Taking us to 5 games, and the echoes of Silver Scrapes start to play in the ears of just about everyone. Movistar, mostly clean game. I feel like they had a really good understanding of what Unicorns could and could not do. And from the perspective of Unicorns, not able to try and bring down that Fed Cassante whilst losing out on all of the skirmishes on the bottom side meant that, again, options very limited and actually had their own formula thrown back in their face in that regard.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the compositions between them. Again, both teams are really happy to go for the team fights, but one team just have an easier time doing that. And you can even see it, right? Unicorns of Love still looking for the skirmishes with their limited composition. I'll be honest, I still don't rate that Lissandra, right? With all the facilitating choices you could get to actually go on top of someone and how easy it actually was. But because big credit, they saw an early Lissandra from Movistar Riders or from Unicorns. And Unicorns then, or Movistar then says, well, here's the Lissandra, here's the Rell, here's the Xayah, here's all these things that you're never going to be allowed to play the game with. And yeah, it's just really difficult from the mid to late game, wasn't it?
I mean, Unicorns got lost in the sauce. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but we're going to send it over to AD as they break down game number 4.
Thanks, guys.
You're
Great
welcome.
cast. Appreciate it. You're welcome. Well, yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Goldie.
Okay, look, I love how they're saying Unicorns of Love got lost in the sauce because...
Lost in the sauce?
Yeah, lost.
They were one auto attack away in game 1 from right now being eliminated. I would call this lost in the sauce. Give me the draft, because I've got a lot of beef with that one, actually. We were praising Unicorns of Love and the creativity that they have and how huge of champion pools their players have. And then they come out with this draft. And to me, honestly, it is extremely mind-blowing. Whenever we can bring up the draft, please, because I'm fuming without the draft here.
That's fine. We can stop for a little bit longer before we get that draft through. I want to talk about the fact that this time around, they are 1 game off getting eliminated, as Trouble just said. And coming into this, they had some really good League of Legends in the first 2 games. They looked solid. And it just went downhill. I don't know what's going on, what's going wrong here, but maybe you can tell us.
Yeah, it's really difficult, right? I think in the last game specifically, we saw a classic bot lane diff versus a top lane diff. It was them trying to dive top lane on repeat, trying to get Venour ahead, but unfortunately, the way bot lane works right now is just the role is too insane. On top of having a really good Xayah pick to loads of disengage versus a heavy melee team, Venour just really could not use his lead to snowball despite getting loads of dives, despite getting loads of resources, and ultimately coming out on top against Marky.
Yeah, and there's a draft. We got it up in pick order.
I'll bring my beef back.
Bring it back. Get the energy
'Cause
back on the desk. Let's go.
I'll put my beef on the side. I'm bringing it back out. I think it's extremely mind-blowing to see the Lissandra pick right here. The Lissandra pick was picked straight after that Xayah gets locked in for the side of Movistar Riders. And I feel like the Lissandra, without a setup pick, locked back to back with him in the mid lane, is just so underwhelming. Peach was struggling constantly to try and find kicks onto a Xayah where, honestly, if the Xayah player is asleep, maybe you can get a kick on them. But Xayah player is not asleep currently.
Yeah, not in the 5
Listen, is just so
series.
difficult to play into it. And I was sitting there and I'm like, sure, if you look at it with something like a Lissandra and you can chain up your CC, it makes sense. And then maybe if you look in retrospective, Sylas is great. He also has chains. He can lock in CC. But how are you going to play Sylas into the Xayah itself as well? When you look in that Xayah, it just becomes so difficult to play those melee champions. So unless you've got the surprise factor with things like a Wukong or a Lissandra to set you up for that chain CC, it just becomes so difficult. And honestly, I'm really sad because Peach has been underperforming for almost the entirety of this series, and it's been very uncharacteristic of the player.
Yeah, I think that the idea behind the Sylas pick is purely that in an isolated matchup, you just become kind of a bit of a better Lissandra because you steal her R. That's it. I think I completely agree with you. I'd rather have more consistent setup. The pick I want to talk about, however, is Alvaro, right? He picked Rell into Rakan. This is actually something that he's shown quite a few times. Picking Rell into Rakan is really good because it makes bot lane really unplayable. Rakan hates that lane, especially if it's a good Rell player. And it makes teamfights really easy, especially if Rell is secondary engage, because it's essentially a walking Orianna ult that hits every single time. So really like that. It shuts down bot lane completely, which is exactly what Movistar riders want to snowball Supa.
Yeah, top 10 enemy betrayals in the bot lane, but also looking at the mid specifically, you highlighted Lissandra already. It felt like Lissandra had quite a good start, gets a double kill, diving mid, gets 2 kills, 2.5 minutes into game. So starting off strong, but it's a matter of continuously getting that lead. when Movistar Riders start focusing on bot side, that's a struggle.
I mean, the game that they very decisively won, literally the previous one, it was playing towards Supa and Alvaro on the bot side of the map. Our only question mark was Isma. He only looked good on the Wukong this series. He had a fantastic game onto the Zhao, covering for this bot lane ganks, creating opportunities himself for his AD carry. And I feel like Supa has been so incredible in this particular series. His Xayah has been great. He always flashes towards the choke points. He makes people funnel into choke points for the feathers to hit and makes these teamfights unplayable for Pete, who was trying the entire game on this list to get one kick and didn't get it.
Yeah, and I think this was the best play that Peach made, finding that dive onto the top side to hopefully make it so Venour could stand up to the really fed Xayah. But again, you just see Funky dying here over and over again in this kind of position. I believe it's a flash W now, yeah. Over and over again in these bushes down between the towers is absolutely brutal because he's constantly getting denied CS, constantly being denied XP, and not being able to play the bully that we normally see coming out of Varus into the Xayah.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of both spectrums here. We're seeing MRS playing for that bot side, we're seeing Unicorns of Love going for the top instead, and it's a clash of playstyles.
I just feel like this team fight here from Supa has been absolutely fantastic. He started through a choke point, he laid down the feathers, he flashed through towards mid lane because he saw Cassante coming in from the flank, then he rolled everyone with his feathers, pulling it back through the entirety of mid lane. His Xayah has been extraordinarily fantastic to look at, and of course, when you do have the wallet and you can slap your opponents with it, they had the engage as well. Movistar Riders, we said it, if they get the momentum of the early game, they can snowball. There have been a few mishaps. We saw it in the first game. One hit off of the Nexus going down, with the series already in their hands.
Yeah, and that's a crazy situation to be in, looking at it from Unicorns of Love's perspective, because they're looking at this series thinking, oh, we could have closed this a while ago. You're now down to that last game. You're down to the final game. There is so much pressure on both of these teams. So it's a matter of which team is going to be able to perform the best under this pressure and move up to the occasion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's really hard going forward. What do you start targeting? Like, what do you let MRS actually start taking? Because now they've shown multiple compositions too. They've shown they can play for Wukong, getting Wukong to Divine Sunder ahead of curve, you know, playing for the Wukong, or they've started playing compositions where, you know, Zhao plus kill first target compositions where you also have a Xayah to back up and proc Lissandra passives. So now that they've shown both compositions, which one are you prepared to start trying to counter? I think that's the really big question going forward. And I'm not sure which one they pick because both have been very convincing.
I feel like it might be time to bring out the Graves LeBlanc.
Ooh, spicy!
Okay, you'll never hear me say the name Graves. I prefer seeing it. But in this particular scenario, I feel like Pete has had the better roaming around the map. He's had the better pathing. So if you do put him on something like a carry, you give him a LeBlanc, you're able to get into the jungle and shut down Isma. You get the snake by the neck, because Isma is the one that starts creating the opportunities down bot lane for Supa and Alvaro and that mid lane. You take the jungler out of the equation, then you're allowing the bot lane of Unicorns of Love to scale into that late game. So that mid jungle for Unicorns of Love, I feel like has been so pivotal to their victories that when we see Peach or Mask underperforming a game, it ends up being a loss for them.
Yeah, I mean, we have some player cams, right? I think both of these teams are equally stressed at this point because you're down to that final game, and so far, a lot of these games have been decided, even as you said it yourself, Trouble, quite either early on or just right a pivotal point in the mid. That's been the case. And these small mistakes that keep on creeping up, that keep on happening from both of these teams, they're going to get punished even more heavily.
No, absolutely. And at this point, you know, in the comms, you're probably thinking to yourselves, because I've been there, right, as a player. I've been there in a 5-game series. I've been very concerned. You're just thinking, what kind of band-aids can we make? You know, what do we ban out? What do we pick? How do we play? Do we scrap top lane? Do we scrap bot lane? Because you could already tell Movistar Riders have kind of abandoned Marky a little bit and are fully committing to bot side. So what are you all going to do to match?
Also, a little bit of a problem right here is that when you get pushed towards a wall that early into EMEA Masters, it's quarterfinals, then you might be forced to pull out the ace out your sleeve, to pull out that pick that you've been preparing behind the scenes, but people will be able to see that, people will be able to study that, will be waiting for you in the semifinals. So do you pull out the ace out of your sleeve, or are you confident enough to go, for example, with Movistar, go back to the Wukong, play towards a bot side with the Zhao, and for Unicorns of Love, play for that mid-jungle duo, give them a good pairing for their two Koreans to actually wreak havoc on the Rift. I mean, you're going to have to pull something out that the other team has not seen before that might end up getting countered.
I mean, it is now. This is the only time for you to actually pull out that ace off your sleeve. And we spoke about the mid-jungle duo that we've seen from Unicorns of Love. Feels like it's not stepping up to the expectations that we've set for them. And we highlighted them even in the pregame. And we're like, this is a team, this is a duo that has been so great. But they also have the flexibility of enabling the rest of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, again, I think Peach should go more on a farming jungler. It hasn't been working that well for them, unless it's a Marky, which has been banned in the rest of the series. It feels like a Graves could catch Isma off guard. You can very easily invade the jungle, stop the jungler straight in their tracks, take away the Wukong again, like Aragon said, and put him onto something like a Xin Zhao. Graves would have a great time in that jungle.
Yeah, and definitely thinking of Xin Zhao, something funny is that globally, Xin Zhao actually has a 30% win rate in major regions. So the fact that they can actually pull this out and perform well is really, really impressive. But I agree. I think they need a shift of pace, something, a little bit of a change. And maybe it's the Graves, maybe it's something else, but I hope to see it coming out.
They need the secret sauce because it's do or die here. Trouble. This is the last game that they need to play, and they have to step it up. MRS need to keep that momentum going, but Unicorns of Love, they need to find that momentum that they had at the beginning.
I don't know. Unicorns of Love have won one game extremely convincingly, and that was game number 2. The first game, we mentioned it. They shouldn't be too proud of that game because that early game was very messy.
It happens.
Then back-to-back games, they've lost early games very convincingly to Movistar. So I think you just need to somehow figure out a way to band-aid that bot lane, whether it is constantly putting pressure towards the bot side of the map and keeping your vision up, or just play for the complete opposite side of the map. I feel like Marky has been a pretty weak point for Movistar, has constantly played these carries. So maybe if you keep funneling gold into Venour, he can maybe bail you out.
Okay, well, there you get it, guys. A lot of expectations in terms of having to step it up in this final game. Both of these teams are looking to get to the semifinals. This is your do or die. You lose, you snooze, you're out. There's no second chances. There is no lower brackets. So for both Unicorns of Love and Movistar Riders, this is it.
Silver Scrapes! Woo!